Hello, this is Mr. Jarrett, and in this video tutorial, I'm going to be teaching you how to draw shapes, how to manipulate those shapes, and how to make the different types of gradients in Adobe Illustrator. So the first thing that we have up here is just a row of shapes, and you can see that there's the rectangle with rounded corners. I'm just going to quickly review here out to the side of this how to just use the normal rectangle tool first. So over on our left side where we see all of our tools, you can see right underneath the capital T is where all of your shape tools are. And the first one here is the rectangle. So we've probably already drawn a rectangle up to this point in class, but if I draw a rectangle out here, and if I want to make it perfect, I'm going to hold in Shift. So if I draw a normal rectangle, with our bounding box being shown, that's these dots on the outside of how you resize it or rotate it or manipulate the size of it, you will see on the inside of those bounding boxes have these tiny little corners. And those tiny little corners actually allow you to round stuff. So I switched over to my white arrow instead of my black. Because when it's your black arrow, you move stuff around, but sometimes these don't always show up. Now they are for me, of course, why I'm doing this, but I'm just going to show you here. If I use the black arrow and I grab these little dots on the inside, that will round the corners as well. Now the white arrow would be if I want to just round one individually. So if I click just on that one and then I click and hold again, I can just change just one of them. But that's how you would round a normal rectangle, okay, or any shape that you draw using these little dots on the inside. Now let's look at the tool that is just called the rectangle with rounded corners. So if I click and hold on this, they made a whole separate tool just for this. And honestly, I don't know why they do that, considering you can round the corners like I just showed you, but they did. So you can go up here and hold in Shift and try to make it. You could go to the middle and hold in Alt and Shift, which draws from the center out. Doesn't really matter. This is just practice. This does not have to be the exact same size as mine. Okay, so I held in Alt and Shift with my left hand and I drew from the middle out. But that is how you draw with a rounded rectangle. Now we're going to use the ellipse tool. So if I click and hold, the ellipse tool. The ellipse is just the geometry term for an oval. So you can make a circle out of this, or you can make an ellipse out of this, or an oval, whatever you want to call it. Now, just like I said on this one, if you start up here and you try to draw down, it's pretty hard to kind of figure out where that's going to be. So when I draw a circle, I like to try to find the middle, and your eye can get pretty darn close to the middle. So just by guessing, it's probably right around in here. I'm going to hold in Alt, because Alt draws from the middle out, as you can see. And if I want to draw a perfect circle, I hold in Alt and Shift, and then I draw out. So when I'm drawing, I'm clicking and holding with my mouse as well. So right now I have Alt and Shift held down with my left hand on the keyboard, and I was holding down the clicker or the left click on my mouse as well. Now, if you let go of stuff and it kind of just warped the shape of it, it's probably because you let go of Alt and Shift first instead of the mouse. Now moving over to the polygon. So down here's the polygon tool. Polygon tool works a little bit different. For any one of these tools, the circle or the rectangle, you can always just click, and when you click, it'll give you like a size description here. So with a polygon, this is used a little bit more because you can just go in here and change the sizes. But just to kind of circle back a little bit with the circle, you could do that too if you want a specific size for the circle or the ellipse. Same thing with the rectangle. But the polygon tool, I'm just going to click, and you can kind of see, you can set the different sizes of this. This obviously has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sides of it. So I'm just going to make mine with 6, and I'm going to show you how to alter that. So if I hit OK, right there I have the wrong amount of sides, right? And if you wanted to draw the polygon like I just showed you before on the circle, you could always click and hold and drag out. There's different ways, they're just drawing tools. But when I select a polygon, you'll see the bounding box on the outside. But they also put this other tiny little slider on here. It's a tiny extra little dot. And that little dot has a plus and minus when you move your mouse over it. That is the slider. Now, I wish they would have made this a different color, but they didn't. It's just this tiny little triangle instead of a square. So when you click and hold on that and you drag up or down, it changes the amount of sides that there is on that polygon. Now, if I wanted this to be close to the size of this, again, I can hold in Shift. I can resize this by grabbing a corner, and then I can reposition it. Okay. And then there's the star tool as well. So it's the same thing. So if I go to the middle, I hold in Alt and Shift, I can draw a star out. And this one is also has a little slider. And this is what I mean by I wish they would have changed the color. So you notice on this one, the color of the slider is blue, it's vibrant, it's a different shape, it stands out. On this one, it's not. I wish they would have made them the same because this one stands out. You can obviously see that quickly with your eye. And when I move this, it gives you a different kind of effect with the stars. Okay. Now, all of these different shapes can be changed with their strokes and fills and all of that. The other tool that's underneath this is the flare tool. You're not going to use that too often. I'm sure there's some cool tutorials online, but the flare tool is just like a camera flare. Like there's other things you could do. It's almost like a little flash. At least that's what my students have used it for in the past. But I'm sure there's other manipulation ways of doing it. I haven't really found a huge use for it yet. Okay, now let's go down here to the gradients. So there are three different kinds of gradients in Illustrator. The first one is your basic one. This is called linear. So linear meaning line. And I just drew three little boxes here that we can change their gradients. So I'm going to select the first box, and you can see the fill is just a solid orange right now. Okay, you should have a gradient tab or panel over here. If you don't, you can always go up to Window and down to Gradient, and it will pop up for you. But on the gradient panel, you'll see that there's different presets, right? If you have this just set to document library, it's whatever you did last. But there's all these other ones in here, right? So you saw I had some of these up from when I was demoing in class. And then there's the different types, which we're going to go through. There's a little preview. And then this is your gradient slider. And there's some other settings here that we're going to go through. The biggest thing is that you need to make sure what you want your gradient to be on. So these tiny little windows here affect where the gradient goes. So right now the fill is in the front, and if I click this button, it's going to activate, as you see, click to activate, and it's going to put that gradient on there. Now if I hit the back button, just to show you, if my little stroke is in the front, when I activate it, it's on the stroke. And it's so small right now that you can't really see what's happening. I mean, you kind of can. You can see there's like no black over there and there's a black stroke over here. But that's the biggest mistake I think students make, or the hardest thing they have to learn. So you want to make sure that the fill's in the front if that's what you're trying to do. Okay, now I'm going to hit the linear gradient, which was the default there. It was already on there. Okay, you can obviously change the angle of this if you want this to be a specific angle, so now it's at 60 degrees or 90 degrees. You can also flip-flop the colors, so this is like a little reverse. So you see orange is here, black is here. If I hit flip-flop, it goes the opposite way, or reverse. There's some coloring methods. I'm sure there's stuff online that you can find with that. But the gradient slider down here allows you to edit and change those colors. You can not only grab these circles and change their placement of them, you can change the opacity of them. You can add another one by just moving your mouse up on here and you see the plus sign popped up. When I click, it places another one. If I want to remove one, I can either hit the trash can or I can just drag it off. To change their colors, I can click on the circle. I can either use this eyedropper tool here, and the eyedropper tool I can go around and select a different color from somewhere else. Or I could double click on that and it brings up this panel where you can slide and adjust the colors. You have your swatches all set there if there's like a preset swatch that you like, or once again there is the color picker on here that you can choose the eyedropper, sorry, that you can go and pick the color of it. Now the other thing that you can do with this that some students will get real good at, other students really won't touch too much, is instead of just using these preset angles, it's actually adjusting it by yourself. So over here on the panel, you can just change the settings. But over here, you see now it activated the gradient tool. I can actually draw where I want this gradient to start and stop. So if I want it to start right here and go up, I can do that. And you see there's a lot more blue then, right? If I want it to go out past, I can go way out past for some reason, or I can have it stop and there's just a little bit of blue. So this is how you not only change the angle, but how you can adjust it. And this is also your gradient slider. So you can adjust its midpoint, you can adjust where the orange is out here. So instead of just kind of guessing over here and watching your screen, you can also place it where you exactly want it and adjust it a little bit better in here. Okay, so that's the linear gradient plus a lot of the settings, and a lot of those settings are the same for the next one. So I'm going to get my black arrow and select the next rectangle. And now this time I'm going to hit the second option, which is the radial gradient, or similar to radius, so it's circular. And you can see on this one, some of the settings slightly changed. Your angle doesn't matter too much yet because it's a perfect circle. But if you wanted to squish this into a different shape, almost like an oval, you could. So if I squish this down to like 30%, you can see it's more of an oval. Now your angle actually matters. So if I go to 60, that oval is going to be at 60 degrees. Okay, you can again change the gradient slider and all of the colors. You can do all of that here, or you could do it out here as well. Same thing, if I get my gradient tool, I can go over here and I can draw this. I can squish this right over here. I can rotate it if I want, or scale it up and down. Here's the rotate. I clicked on the wrong spot. So a lot of the same settings here as what you had here. It's just now you're working with something that's circular. Okay. Then the last one is the freeform. So when I select that and I select freeform, the best way that I have found that describes this or explains it is that it takes your shape and it puts 4 dots in there. Normally, if you have corners, it puts them right inside the corners. And these dots are instantly colored with other colors that it's finding around it or within the document. So we have a lot of oranges here, as you can kind of see. We have a lot of white space. We have some black because of all of the text, and the blacks is real close here. And this one's probably kind of pulling from that blue a little bit. So all of these dots are like your gradient slider now. It's just within this, so it's more free forming. So you can move these dots and their placement, and as you can see, the lighting and the color of it changes. You can change how intense they are by making this circle bigger or smaller. You can also add more just by clicking, or you can delete it just by hitting delete on your keyboard. You can double click on these and you can change their colors right in here as well. So this is kind of like one massive gradient slider, but it's more within the shape itself. Okay, so that is the shapes and the gradients within Adobe Illustrator.